I think that a lot of women would agree that there are some problems with a good portion of men. Not necessarily that they're bad people, but maybe they lack something here and there. As a man, I can often see where they're coming from. We can admittedly be pretty stupid. Perhaps it is just natural for men to be immature, selfish, and short-sighted, at least when we're young. As we get older, we physically and mentally mature. We don't think or act the same way that we did when we were teenagers. Or at least we aren't supposed to. Growing up is an uncomfortable but necessary part of life, and although it may be easier to chase the memories of simpler times, we need to accept that things change, our responsibilities, our beliefs, and especially our relationships. Catherine is a game that explores the internal conflict that inherently comes with facing the actual realities of life, with its difficulties and forced adjustments, and being forced to confront immaturity. Two different desires, one being an easy, immature, free, spontaneous, but shallow life, and the other being a serious, committed, stable, and mature life, are represented by two women in the game. Two women which the main character will have to choose from. Our main character is Vincent Brooks, a 32-year-old in a long-term relationship with his girlfriend Catherine. They meet at the Chrono Rabbit, a cafe that oozes romance. The pillows are in the shapes of hearts, and almost everything is pink. It's a spot that's meant for couples, and is a fitting location for his meetings with Catherine. In their first conversation of the game, Catherine raises concern for Vincent not getting paid for his overtime work. Vincent doesn't seem to pay it any mind though, and instead finds more of an issue with his tea, which is too bitter. Catherine quickly puts 2 sugars in his tea, knowing how he likes it, assumedly from the multiple years that they've been dating. Interestingly, Vincent's dislike of bitter things may represent his childish nature. It's considered to be more adult to enjoy bitter things due to the taste buds changing as we age, and more kid-like to enjoy overly sweet things. Regardless, the conversation shifts to talking about the recent calls Catherine has been getting from her mother, and she subtly brings up marriage to Vincent. This freaks Vincent out, who later talks to his friends about it at the bar, saying that although he loves Catherine, he thinks that things are better the way they are now. He feels no urgency to get married or step outside of his comfort zone in any way. Vincent, in many ways, is like somebody who struggles with Peter Pan syndrome, a term that is associated with adults who have reached an adult age but cannot face their adult sensations and responsibilities. He steers away from the idea of marriage, even though it would be the next step in his relationship with Catherine, and is largely non-confrontational as he doesn't advocate for himself at his workplace. He is very different from Catherine, who largely knows what she wants, personally or career-wise, and is direct about getting it. After his friends decide to leave for the night, Vincent stays at the bar and ends up meeting a young girl, his perfect type, blonde and seductive. The first real thing she says to him is how marriage is just a tradition, and she wouldn't want to be tied down. Soon their interactions become intimate, and Vincent finds her in his bed the next morning. Before getting to the morning though, let's talk about the nightmares. Each night Vincent is plagued with nightmares, where he endlessly climbs up, hoping that once he fully reaches the end that he'll be able to escape the surreal dreams. Every few stages, Vincent goes through a boss level, and in the first one we play through, the boss is the Fist of Grudge, a pair of hands holding a dessert fork. They resemble Catherine's hands from when they were at the Chrono Rabbit. The fork stabs into the blocks that Vincent uses to climb up, similar to how Catherine stabs her dessert. Catherine has a more direct and strong personality, not acting overly feminine and ditzy like the new girl does. The woman Vincent wakes up to in the morning is the exact opposite of his girlfriend, and someone he thinks he wants in his life, someone who doesn't challenge him. After the girl leaves, Vincent meets up with his friend Orlando, who has a pessimistic view on marriage since he's currently divorced. Orlando doesn't believe in committing in fear of being betrayed by women, and so isn't put off by the cheating. Orlando is an example of the many other male characters in the game who want to continue living their lives the same way, carefree bachelors who just want to have fun. That night, Vincent runs away from the immoral beast in his nightmare, an amalgamation of limbs and facial features. The beast represents the affair that Vincent had, the pleasure mixed with the guilt of having cheated on his longtime girlfriend. When he wakes up, he again finds the blonde woman in his bed, and who we now know has a name, Catherine, spelled with a C instead of a K. This furthers the idea that the two women are two sides of one coin. Later, Vincent meets Catherine with a K, which I will now call K from now on. She reveals that she's late and may be pregnant. This obviously freaks out Vincent because of his current affair and his already reluctant feelings surrounding marriage. However, Kay does come on strong in the conversation. She does, in a way, jump the gun, perhaps because of the pressures her family has been putting on her. And so, Vincent's reaction can't be fully blamed on himself. At the bar, Orlando is already filling Vincent's head with pessimistic thoughts, telling him he won't be able to have a life once he's married and has children. This is a common sentiment I've heard echoed online, that once you get married or have children, you lose your spark. But when you take such a big step in your life, it should be a given that things won't exactly be the same way as they were before. You have to balance your time and energy differently, and importantly, you need to learn how to put someone else's needs above your own. As Kay puts it in a text later that night, you're not just living for you anymore. Maturity comes along with acknowledging that life doesn't revolve around you, and that's healthy. Growing up doesn't mean you lose your core identity, it just means your lived experience informs your ever-changing identity. That night, Vincent has a nightmare about the child, an obvious connection to the possible child that Kay is carrying. The idea of having a child scares Vincent and threatens the way he currently lives his life, unserious and unfettered. That morning, Catherine is seen at Vincent's apartment. She always seems to be there when he wakes up, even though he doesn't remember their meetings at all. Though, unfortunately for him, Kay arrives at the same time. Vincent rushes out into the hallway to talk to Kay, trying to hide the two women from each other. Out there, Kay says that she wanted to check up on him and give him a sweet from a new place that opened up. Kay is an attentive girlfriend, consistently checking up on him and making sure he isn't drinking too late, and that he's taking care of his apartment. Her character is maternal in a way, and although this could be a negative trait, honestly, Vincent kind of needs someone in his life who will keep him straight. Their passive and active personalities balance each other out in a way. Anyways, Kay also reveals that she is indeed pregnant. This is represented in the nightmare Vincent has, with the boss being Doom's bride, a ghoulish depiction of Catherine as a bride. Now that she's pregnant, Vincent has no other choice but to take responsibility and stop running from his fears of settling down. He will have to face all the doom and gloom that Orlando has been putting in his head during their conversations. After surviving the nightmare, Vincent wakes up and receives a call from a man named Steve, who claims to be Catherine's boyfriend. However, Catherine says she doesn't know Steve, so Vincent starts to get worried that maybe the caller was talking about a different Catherine, Kay. That night, Vincent has to escape from Child with Chainsaw, a half-human, half-robot monster. This represents the worry that Kay's child is not actually his, and is instead another man's. Right after waking up, Vincent meets Kay at the Chrono Rabbit and asks her about Steve, but both women say they don't know of any Steve. And soon, Vincent finds out that the caller might have had the wrong guy. This isn't the end of the Steve character though, as he later appears in our nightmare in sheep form. In the nightmares, all the men appear as sheep. Yet, the meeting of Steve and Vincent in the dream world is short-lived, as the boss, Shadow of Vincent, eats Steve whole. Shadow of Vincent represents all the ugliness of Vincent, the cheating, the guilt, and the childish fears, and puts it behind a mask. As Vincent climbs, the mask breaks apart and reveals his true monstrous face. The shadow confronts him with who he really is and forces him to figure out who he wants to be from now on. The following day, Vincent breaks up with Catherine, deciding that he's done enough and is ready to settle down with Kay from now on. In their breakup, Catherine tries to get Vincent to change his mind by saying that she'd still be okay with sneaking around or hitting him in the bathroom. Neither of these behaviors are appropriate and show that Catherine isn't a very mature person. Being with someone like Catherine may seem seductive and exciting, but relationships cannot only be built on doing whatever feels good. That night, Vincent's nightmare takes on a surreal form. It begins with both of the Catherines finding out about each other, and their argument soon turning violent. Eventually, Catherine gets stabbed and Vincent's apartment shifts into the blocky setting that the dreams often take place in. Vincent, with Kay alongside him, escapes from a demonic form of Catherine. Catherine in the nightmare represents Vincent's fears of the affair destroying his long-term relationship, concerns that completely coming clean will be the death of everything he has with Kay. Of course, it's just a dream, and when he wakes up, he tries to tell Kay how much he appreciates her, but it's all for nothing. Kay has found out he has been cheating on her, and given that the pregnancy was a false alarm, they should just end things. Of course, this is Vincent's fault, and there should be some discussion on whether or not Vincent even deserves someone like Kay because of his selfish actions. Vincent is a flawed character, and although it's revealed that he never actually slept with Catherine, he still emotionally cheated and casually toyed with the idea of infidelity. The main issue with Vincent is his stubbornness. He wants to live life like he always has and have fun, but he's 30 now, and you can't expect people to wait around forever until you are ready to go forward. The whole game has Vincent questioning what he really wants, to grow as a person, or to keep indulging in what works right now. The rest of the game involves Vincent winning back Kay by getting to the very end of the nightmare and facing off against the boss, Thomas Mutton. It's revealed that the nightmares were designed to pick off men who didn't want to settle down. At the end of the last stage, Vincent frees all the men who are stuck in this deadly game. After being broken up with, he realized how much he loves her and needs her in his life. In Kay's true ending, Vincent fully grows as a person and finally gets married to his girlfriend. In contrast, if Vincent decides to go with Catherine and wins her back after the breakup, they say that they love each other and Vincent becomes some sort of demon king. Vincent is surrounded by other demon girls and enjoys a fantasy-like life. I think the endings best represent the differences in the life paths that Vincent can go down. One is grounded, real, and genuine, while the other is unrealistic, lustful, and shallow. Again, a relationship thrive on only sex alone. A good relationship has ups and downs that you navigate together and come out stronger from. Catherine's route shows no character evolution. Vincent stays childish, cheats, and then is rewarded for it in the end. In Kay's, he actually confronts his fears, his immaturity, and his selfishness that led to cheating. Now, not everyone should get married or have children. It should ultimately be your choice on what you want your life to look like. I know that was the story and message Catherine seemingly has for us, but I think it's a little bit deeper than that. The point was never really that Vincent needed to sign a marriage certificate. It was all just the backdrop to Vincent maturing as a person. Marriage is more so symbolic to Vincent finally being able to love Kay and appreciate her for the positive influence she has on his life. Vincent needed the pressures to come out as a better person. Life is stressful, and sometimes those stresses are needed to make us better. We cannot always live our lives in fear of the next step. Whether that next step is marriage, or advancing in your career, or deciding to forge your own path, you can't avoid it forever. Catherine isn't just a free spirit, she's a coping mechanism that Vincent was using to avoid growing up and becoming a better person. If you want a Catherine for yourself, go ahead, but make sure it isn't for the sake of avoiding something else. Love should be genuine. Thank you so much for watching. I thought it would be nice to do something with a love or relationship theme in honor of Valentine's Day, and I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you to my patrons for supporting the channel. Be on the lookout for a little Patreon exclusive video I'll be publishing soon that talks more about Catherine. The game has some parts that I would like to talk about more, but it's not quite suited for YouTube, so I'll be posting it there. Again, thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week.